in the rhythm. This is what I'm using to come up with a style, so I'll interact all together better with the crowd. Nervous for a second and the record starts spinning and I fall into the state of mind of what I've just created. Pumping like the doctor, the into the RE suckers ready to leap. We made it, created so I'll never be regarded as a regular. More than just a little bit better than my competitor. You should never underestimate the passion. I hope for the stage whether I'm cooling or flashing. I got the concoction created by me. When read, you read, E equals a D-O to the C. Knowledge and the talent that my mother had born. Now her equals an artist, I will be born. What is that, Dre?
This podcast is brought to you by Two Pits and Bricks Goalkeeper Training.
Hello. I am Coach O, and this is the National Scouting Service Podcast Show. We have a very interesting show for you all tonight. You don't want to miss it. We're going to be talking about stem cells, how it can help you as a student athlete or a professional athlete, or as well as in everyday life. This individual that I have coming on to the show tonight, you want to hear what he have to say. I know him personally. We went to high school together, played baseball together in high school. So we have a lot to talk about. I'm glad he gave me the opportunity to interview him on our National Scouting Service Podcast Show, because I know the information that he's going to bring to the show can help our student athletes as well as our adults in everyday life. And with that being said, we have to give our shouts out to our supporters as well as to our sponsors. To those who are tuning in on Instagram, please go on to National Scouting Service Facebook page or YouTube page, because we would love to hear your comments or see your comments so we can address those as well. If you're listening to us on our Station Head app radio, which is brought to you by Station Head, download the Station Head app and follow National Scouting. You can call in on the radio station as well as post your comments on our radio station, and we can address your comments as well as on our podcast radio station. Without further ado, with that being said, I'd like to give a big shout out to Meek and Zeke Studios. This broadcast is being brought to you by Meek and Zeke. You can follow Meek and Zeke on every social media platform, from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, as well as on TikTok and on Station Head. I want to give a big shout out to our supporters in Uncontested Hoops. That is by Coach Herb Washington. If you're into maintaining your skills training, your ball handling, your shooting, your mentality of the game, follow Coach Herb Washington on Instagram under Uncontested Hoops. Also, Running Back Giving Back. That is by former Kansas City Chiefs All-Pro fullback and currently Kansas City Chiefs Ring of Fame Hall of Famer Kimball Anders. And Peace of Mind Athletics. That is by Coach Thomas Peace. You can follow Coach Thomas Peace on Instagram under Peace of Mind Athletics, Palm Athletics, or on Twitter at Coach_Peace. And by our main sponsors, as you will see our new banner that'll be in the background, that is by Two Pits, and that is by Coach L. Campbell. Big shout out to Two Pits Barbecue. We'll be doing some things with Two Pits as well. So when we have that going on, we'll send you all the information so you can meet us at that spot, that location, to enjoy some great barbecue, as well as take pictures with us under the National Scouting Service Podcast broadcast under the banner that we have that is sponsored by Two Pits Barbecue. And last but not least, Briggs Goalkeeper Training, another big sponsor of ours. If you'd like to get your goalkeeper training up, your soccer training up, please contact Coach Eric Briggs on Twitter, and that is by Eric Briggs, as well as on Instagram, Eric Briggs 8, and he is also a main sponsor of our podcast coming to you tonight. And in any monetary donation that you would like to give to National Scouting Service, you can do that by Cash App and Zelle, because we still got to make payments to keep this show going alive, as well as our broadcast. With that being said, I'm going to bring into our intro video of our special guest that's coming on today, so you can hear a little about stem cells, how it helps our modern day athletes and recovery time, as well as our adults or kids that have sustained injuries. It doesn't matter if it was an ACL tear, ankle sprain, how you can go about getting a speedy recovery with these stem cells that is brought to you by WBRx Biologics. With that being said, we're going to play this short video, and then we'll bring in our special guest that he would have a lot to say. I have a lot of questions to ask myself, so tune in, stay tuned, and share this with your family as well as your friends.
A research article, over 200,000 cases, not one rejection. It's one of the safest things I've seen, okay? Best anti-inflammatory, best immunomodulating, and best regenerative capacity. So let's review the language of stem cells. They're regenerative, anti-inflammatory, and immunomodulatory. Now, most clients, one round of therapy is enough to achieve your regenerative goals. Occasionally, depending on your severity, your situation, or the chronicity of how long you've been battling that situation, it may take a couple rounds. Some of you are going to see the benefits of this and realize that health is more valuable than healing, and do this to be and stay well. And again, joint injection, IV push, or intramuscular injection is the mode of delivery.
Well, that was a little intro of what we have in store for you all today. And I'm coming on the screen and I'm going to take the little video off. I am Coach O, and this is the National Scouting Service Podcast Show. And in a couple of seconds, we're going to bring our special guest onto the show, and he should be on in about 3 seconds. And with that being said, we would like to welcome our special guest, Mr. Thien Vo. And hey, I know this guy. And when I was telling him about this was the first time that I ever knew his first name was Thien or Tien. I'll probably be saying it wrong. And he already know I wasn't doing this intentionally, because I always known him as Buddy Vo. But with that being said, Mr. Vo, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you on the show. And without further ado, you can give our audience and our viewers and our listeners a little insight about you, who you are, where you're from, and the company that you work for.
Thank you, Otis. I appreciate it. Big time fan. I love your podcast. I never thought I'd be on here as a guest, but nonetheless, I'm going to take full advantage of you, and I hope it helps everyone not only to learn about our product, but to also be available to receive the product as well. I come from a financial background. I've worked with various companies in the past. I'm what's known as a financial broker. I work under the umbrella company. Our firm works under the umbrella company of Transamerica. It's that big triangle pyramid building that you see in downtown San Francisco, and they are actually owned by a company called Aegon. Now, Aegon is one of the biggest financial companies in the entire world. They're based out of the Netherlands, Dutch Netherlands, and their total assets under management worldwide is around $480 billion. That's with a B. And that's the wealth of our company. Now, even though we are the number 3 company in the nation, we are actually the number 1 producers in the nation, because we service more people nationwide than any other company out there. And the reason that we are able to do that is because we work with about 100 different firms in the United States. All of them are on the Fortune 500 companies. What we offer is a vehicle to manage your money, to grow your wealth, to build, protect, and preserve your assets. So that's what we're under the business of doing. Most of the people out there, it's the statistic says that about over 70% of the working force out there today have less than $1,000 in their bank account. So if they get hurt, they get injured, and that's something that we're going to go into is getting hurt and injuries later on. But if they get hurt and have injuries with less than $1,000 in their bank account, how far is that going to go? And these are the people that we're trying to help. There's a shortage of about 200,000 people, such as myself, as financial brokers in the United States alone. We're trying to help as many people as we can to make sure that when they're in their 60s and their 70s, they're not saying hello to people at the Walmart entrance. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And being that I've been in the financial industry, for a while, I always saw 2 things that kind of correlated with each other. And the 2 things was wealth and health. So when people have wealth, they have money, they also have better health. And it's vice versa. When people have better health, they have better wealth. Because if you're healthy, you're able to go out there and work, you're able to provide for your family, you're able to, have the income that you want. And vice versa, if you have money, you're able to access certain medical procedures out there that's not affordable for some people. And that's the correlation. Unfortunately, a lot of people out there that don't have the wealth to access certain medicine and certain procedures. What happens to them? They're going to get sicker and sicker. They're going to end up losing their jobs because they can't go to work due to a chronic illness or some type of injury that they can't recover from. So I've always seen the correlation between the two. You can't have one without the other, and if you do have one without the other, then you're pretty soon you're going to lose the other one as well. And that's what got me interested in going to the health side more, and which we're going to talk to about tonight. Let's see, the way that I got into the wellness side is that going to be the next topic you want to bring on?
Yeah, but hold on. I'm gonna stop you right there because we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. But I want no, you're good. But I want our audience to get to know a little about you before we get into all of that. And one of the things I like to do on the show, like the icebreakers, I do these things called things I would want to know. And everything that you just touched on, we're gonna get into that, but let's kind of soften it up so our viewers and our listeners can understand, like, how did you get to where you was at? How do I know you? And then we'll get into those them topics. Things I want to know is, where did you attend high school, and what college did you attend?
Let me get my screen back on. I went to Galveston Ball my first 3 years, and I grew up playing baseball, as well as that. I grew up playing baseball. My sophomore year, I was one of 2 players that made the varsity team, which I was very excited about. And I'm trying to get my screen on so I can better lighting in here. Sorry about that. So I grew up playing. And then my junior year, I suffered a lot of injuries. One of the injuries I had was running into, one of our, Charlie Red Johnson. It was during a practice. I was playing shortstop. I was going for a short fly ball in center field. And I saw him coming. And to avoid the collision, I slid feet first so I could get lower than him. Well, at the same time, he dove head first, and I caught his knee under my chin. And that was, and the next thing I knew, I woke up in my house. It was probably about 7 or 8 o'clock. I was watching Apocalypse Now. I had no idea how I got there. Dr. Paterick came in, and he asked if I was okay. And I was like, the first question, I was like, Dr. Paterick, what the heck are you doing here? So I ended up getting a concussion, lost about 4 or 5 hours of memory, and ended up getting a deep bone bruise in my thigh, which took months and months to recover. And then my senior year, I decided to go over to O'Connell in Galveston also, because I thought it would look a little better on my from a private school. I had a great time over there. I had a lot of friends that played baseball, including one of the guys I work with now at WBRx. He happens to be our vice president of business development. I went over there, had a great season. We ended up winning district. We beat the eventual state champions twice in district that year. One of the most monumental failures of my life. Here we are with one of the best teams in the entire state twice, and then they go on to win state.
Well, they say it's hard to beat the same team 3 times, yet alone twice.
Right. So that was my high school career, and then I ended up going to Southwest Texas, which is now Texas State, I believe, in San Marcos.
Yeah.
It's the best 6 or 7 years of your life there, which is why I had to leave after 1 year. Because I didn't want to be there for 6 or 7 years. What happened was my mom got sick. I had to go home and take care of her. My dad had passed away in my senior year, so she was by herself. So I left college, came back to take care of her, ended up, dropping out of school for a good 5 or 6 years. And then I was working odd jobs and just trying to, food on the table. And eventually I ended up going back to school, graduated from U of H Clear Lake, and got the heck out of there. I did a lot of work in the service industry. Ended up going into the residential and small business alarm industry, and then eventually got into the finance industry. You know, when I was working in the alarm industry, I was working 6 days a week for like 10 years straight. I was putting in 60, 70 hours a week. And after my son was born, I was leaving at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. He was still asleep. And when I got home, he'd already be in bed. Sometimes it was 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I walked away from that. And that's how I ended up getting in the financial industry. And now, I'm back doing both finances and working in the wealth side with WBRx.
Okay, that was good to know. Now, let's get into family over everything. I normally ask my student athletes about this. You kind of went into your family, how important that is, working a lot of hours. Now you're in another profession. You're working with stem cells. You're trying to help athletes. You're trying to help the average American out in the world who probably are not athletes, but they going through problems, chronic problems, or whatever the case may be. How important is family to you? Because I know you probably work a lot of hours now, but you probably dictate when you work or when you get off and stuff like that. So how important is that to you?
I tell you what, when my son was born was probably the one of the best days in my entire life up until that moment. The funny thing is, the night before, my wife had got into an argument, and I'm gonna say it's 100% my fault.
Yeah, you saying the right thing, buddy. You saying the right thing.
The next morning, it was probably about 6 or 7 o'clock. I was getting ready to leave. She goes, "Hey, I got something I want to show you," and I was still upset. I was like, "No, I don't want to bother." So I left. And later on that evening, I came home. It was probably about 7 or 8 o'clock, and she was still excited. And she goes, "Hey, I got something to tell you." I'm like, "I got something to show you." Well, by that time, I was done being upset for something that was my fault. And then, she showed me the little stick. It had a little, blue cross on there, which meant that, she was pregnant. And at that particular moment, my entire world changed. And this is what it means to have family for me. I tell everybody this, and I haven't even spoken about my daughter yet. I tell everybody this: whenever you have kids, and anything after that, when you have kids, that will be the biggest accomplishment that you will ever have in your entire life. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. It doesn't matter how big your house is. It doesn't matter how much money you have in a bank account. When you become a parent, we are all on an equal plane. That means that we have the most important job in the world, and that is to take care of our kids. And ever since I became a parent, that is what I emphasize every single day. That's what I try to do every day for my kids. And at the same time, I try to spread the word. Hey, if you have kids, there's nothing else bigger in this world that you will accomplish. And then, after my son was born, he became my best bud. He became my best friend. But he's still a mama's boy. So, to him, mama is his best friend. And then, we tried to have another baby for several years. And, we had several failed attempts. And then we ended up, doing IVF, which is intro vitro fertilization. So we did that. It was a little pricey, but it was more than worth it. I tell you what, it's more than worth it. So the first time my wife, the doctor asked, which which egg do you want us to pick? She basically said, well, just pick the most active egg. And that was probably the best decision she ever made, because that most active egg ended up being my little daughter, which I love to death. I hold her as much as I can. She's my best friend. She's my reading partner. She'll ask me to read the same book, 9 in a row in the same day. And half of those times are usually when I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting. And then if that's the case, I'll just turn off my camera, turn off my microphone, and I'll read to her. She's my best friend. And, and that's how it is. That's what family means to me. For me, it means doing everything I can to make sure that they have the best life possible, to make sure that they had a better life than I had growing up, and to make sure when they grow up, they are more successful than I am. And that's how it should be with every kid that you raise, and then that's what I hope to do with them.
That's what I'm talking about, man. And for our viewers and listeners, myself, and I probably said this before, but myself and Buddy, we played high school ball together. Hey, I saw a picture that you had up, and I forgot that we played Little League ball against one another. We probably didn't know each other that much at the time, but that year when you made the All-Stars, I think it's for the West All-Stars, and I end up making it that following year. And Buddy, he was a pitcher. Left-handed, correct?
No, I was right-handed. But
right hand. Okay.
I was wild thing before. Wild. See me. I was fast and I was wild.
Hey, but he had that heat on that ball, man. But yeah, that's how I know, Buddy. And again, man, I can't say it enough. Welcome to the show, and I really appreciate it. Now let's get into this wealth over health. You kind of explained a little about it going in, but my question to you is, when I hear wealth, the first thing I think about is I don't have that much wealth. I have wealth as far as my family, because they the richest thing that I have. I have wealth in myself. I got great self-esteem. I think I can achieve anything, but it may take a lot of work. With health, I'm all for that. Just turned 51 yesterday, but I celebrate my birthday again today because I'm a leap year baby. So my actual birthday into next year. So I work out almost every day. Some days I take off, but I work out at 5 in the morning because I know how important it is for health. And I'm glad we're talking about this topic because a lot of student athletes, as well as people who are up in age, as well as myself and yourself, it may take a longer time for us to recover off of injury than others. So when you're saying wealth and health, let's get into a little bit more of that, because with this type of treatment, I know it costs.
Yes.
I hope it don't cost that much, but I hope it costs. So why don't you go ahead and get into some more detail about that?
Well, when I'm talking about wealth, I'm talking about the business side of what I do as far as a financial broker. We don't necessarily all start at the same place, but we want to gradually build our wealth up. We all have a goal in mind to get there. Whether you want to retire at 50, 55, 60, 65. Some of these athletes, they're retiring at 40. God bless them, because they are phenomenal at what they do, and they earn every penny that they make out there. They're putting their body in harm's way every single minute of every single second that they're on that playing field. So they earn every single penny of every dollar that they make. But the wealth side is wealth accumulation, and that's what I help people to do. To make sure that they're going to be at a comfortable level in their retirement years, to make sure that they are on the right path to retirement. And if there's any obstacles or they get off track, we help them to get back on track. And like I said, it's not how much you have, it's how much you can grow. And as far as, and I think that coincides with your health also. People are in a state of health in which at a certain age they become used to it. Well, they just say, well, that's it. It's because of my age I am this way. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to be the diagnosis that the doctor gives you. So not only do I want to build your wealth, but I want to extend and build your health at the same time. And that's where this regenerative therapy comes in, because the medical community out there has an idea that when a certain person has a certain ailment, we'll give them a certain medicine, but the medicine does not increase your health. All it does is treat the current condition that you're in. It will help to either slow down or to just help you get back into a general level to where you can start to function again. But it doesn't cure anything. All it does is treat, and that's the conventional way that modern medicine operates. And we are in the market to disrupt that. With regenerative therapy, we're not trying to treat you. We're trying to make you better. And that's where that's where wealth and health comes in for me. I want to increase your wealth and also at the same time increase your health at the same time.
All right. Now, you spoke on the wealth and the health.
Mhm.
And with this type of procedure, I'm pretty sure our listeners and viewers would like to know what's the element of the cost.
Okay. Well, let me first tell you how much people have been paying compared to what we charge. Everybody named Kobe Bryant. After Jordan, he was, in my opinion, he is the best basketball player for his generation. He was going over to, Europe, as you know, for the last 5 years of his career because of his knees, and he was paying $125,000 for one session. For one session for the last 5 years of his career, he was going over there every single year. We've had people that have gone to Panama and Mexico, for the last 10 or 15 years, and they've been paying in excess of $25,000 for stem cell therapy. But we don't know how good the therapy is down there. It may be effective, but compared to us, we don't know how robust the stem cells are, how they're cultivated, how they're stored, and then how people are receiving them. We only know what we can do up here. Even in the Houston market, there are other companies that are offering the therapy for as much as $15,000. For us, we started off. Our pre-launch was back in September when we were partnering up with the lab. We had initially set the price for stem cell therapy for $8,000. Now we've actually lowered the cost to $6,500. So originally it was supposed to be $8,000, but we wanted to make this available to more people out there. So we decided, well, we'll take a hit on our on our commission, but because we want to help more people, so we actually lowered the cost down to $6,500. But the great thing about ours, it's carefully documented on how we extract the stem cells, how it's stored, how it's tested, and then how it's given to the people out there that need it.
Okay, now I kind of worked in with blood plasma. I used to work for the blood bank in Galveston at University of Texas Medical Branch. One of the questions I'm pretty sure people may ask, and I heard this on the interview with what was the doctor's name again? I don't want to mispronounce the name.
Dr. Darcy.
Dr. Darcy. So with you guys, first question is, do y'all accept insurance if somebody like myself wanted to get the treatment?
Unfortunately, it's not covered by insurance because this is not FDA approved. Even though we have the FDA green light to move forward, it is not FDA approved. And since it is not FDA approved, insurance companies won't pick it up. And there are other alternatives out there. With stem cell therapies, there are actually pharmaceutical products that act as an anti-inflammatory, which is the base of what stem cell therapy does, because at the root of all diseases, it's inflammation, whether it's a tissue, whether it's a cell, where it's an organ. It starts off as an itis, which is a disease, and then it turns into an osis, which is a chronic disease. And a chronic disease is labeled as something that's going to take anywhere between 3 months or longer to heal. And as we age, the osis, the chronic disease, becomes more prevalent, and at some point, it's not going to be treated at all. So I was getting off track a little bit there. So we offer it here, and we make sure that all the testing and all the verification and all the extraction is done in compliance. But like I said, it's not covered by insurance, unfortunately. But we are working with some. Some firms out there that might be able to fund it. I believe there was a company called Caregivers, where they basically offer you a credit card for a certain amount, and you pay. So when you're offered this credit card, they'll use that credit card to pay for the full therapy off the credit card, and then they could make installments back to the credit card to pay off the full cost. But we haven't gotten there. We are actually exploring that. I actually talked to our vice president of business development yesterday about that, because one of the people that were looking to have the stem cell therapy as soon as this Saturday, she asked about that, and I told her currently we don't take that. It's a cash pay only, unfortunately.
Okay. And my next question was, because I did hear in the video that, and you just stated on that, it is FDA approved where y'all can move forward, correct?
We have the green light, but it's not approved. We have the
Okay.
green.
Well, that's a good thing, because even though it's approved by the FDA, they basically saying that you can go forward with y'all process in the United States. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and we strictly follow FDA guidelines, and then we actually exceed FDA guidelines. You know, say for instance, if the FDA guidelines filled the entire first floor of a building, and we met all those criteria, well, we put criteria on top of that. You know, we have our own standards, we have our own testing, we have our own verification, and our standards go all the way up, say, to the 10th floor. So we're 10 times more careful of what we're doing with our product versus what the FDA guidelines have already pre-established.
Okay. And before I move on to the next topic, we do have viewers tuning in on Instagram. Please go over to Facebook National Scouting Service page, as well as YouTube, if you want to post your comments and your questions for Mr. Vo. Now, my next question to you is, and you kind of got on that after I asked you to explain about the health and the wealth, is how does stem cells work in the treatment and the recovery for injuries?
Okay, well, let's talk about injuries first. So injuries are basically a degeneration of a certain body part. You know, whether it's a muscle, a tissue, a cell, an organ. That's part of your body is being degenerated. And the root of all causes of degeneration, as I spoke earlier, is inflammation. So inflammation is your body telling you, hey, there's something wrong here, whether it's a muscle, whether it's one of your limbs, you know, and early signs of inflammation could be bruising, it could be swelling, it could be heat, you know, your body temperature goes up, or it could even be bleeding. So those are all early signs of inflammation. The way that stem cells work is when it's in your body, you're born with stem cells. Over a period of time, you start to lose stem cells. So when you're born, you actually have one stem cell in every 10,000 cells of your body. Now, granted, you have close to 38 trillion cells in your body. So when you're born, you have 1 in 10,000. By the time you're a teenager, you have 1 in 100,000. So by the time you're a teenager, you've already lost 90% of your stem cells. You know, and as you age, you know, when you get to 30, it's like 1 in 250,000. By the time, and that's where most of the athletes fall into is around the, you know, age 30. So if you have 1 in 250,000 versus 1 in 10,000 when you're a newborn, that's why these athletes are struggling to heal faster. You know, a lot of them are taking cortisone shots, which is only masking the injury. It's not healing the injury. It's not even treating the injury. It's just masking the injury. By the time you're our age, you know, you have 1 in 400,000 stem cells. And then by the time you're, say, 80, you have 1 in 2 million stem cells. So the way that stem cells work is they are designated by the body. The body tells the stem cells what to do. You know, we don't say that stem cells, you know, cure any diseases, because one, it's against FDA guidelines to pre-establish that notion. So we don't say that stem cells, you know, treat any type of diseases. But what we say is when we introduce the stem cells into your body, we are giving your body the vehicle, the tools to help repair itself in a faster timeline. So say, you know, you might be 30 and you have an injury. If you receive stem cells, you're not going to be recovering as a 30-year-old. You're going to be recovering like a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old. You know, when kids fall down at that age, they get right back up. You know, they might have a scratch or a bruise, and it's probably gone within a couple of days. When you're in your 30s and your 40s and you fall down and you have a bruise, or what, it might take weeks. It might take, and that's just a sign of aging, because over the years you're losing these stem cells, you know, and these stem cells, they're not as robust when you get older as well. So even though you have a certain amount of stem cells when you get older, they're not doing the same work. They're not as productive, not as robust as when you are, you know, 5 or 10 years of age. So when the body has an inflammation, it will regulate these mesenchymal stem cells. You know, and mesenchymal stem cells, they're floating throughout your body. You know, when you get older, they're more concentrated in your bone marrow. So when we have a bone marrow transplant, that means that somebody's having an immune deficiency issues, and that's why you have bone marrow transfusion. But as you get older, these stem cells, these mesenchymal stem cells, they're responsible for rebuilding cartilage. They're responsible for rebuilding tissues and muscles and even bone. They're responsible for for healing your bone. But as you get older, they don't work as well. So they have this they have this history built in them, saying as you get older, they store the history of injuries of the past. So as you get older, say you have an injury to your outer extremities, well, guess what? These stem cells are not going to work there because they're more concentrated now on your vital organs. So whatever stem cells you have left, the body is making sure that your vital organs are taken care of first. So if you have a broken bone or a bruise, they're not going to go out there and work the same way they did when you were 5 or 10 years old, because they are being kept in reserve just in case something happens to your vital organs. So that's why it takes longer for people to recover from injuries when they get older. By introducing stem cells into your body through our therapy, you're getting stem cells as robust as the day you were born. So when they're introduced into your body, a 2 cc, I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself. Stop me if I am.
No, go ahead.
When in our therapy, you receive a 2 cc count. Now they're going to be anywhere between a 16 to 20 million count in stem cells. Now they could be derived from multiple donors, and that's why we go through all the testing, because multiple donors will give us a more robust application per. So you're getting anywhere between 6 million stem cells for 2 cc dosage. Every one stem cell that you receive out of the 16 to 20 million, it's going to replicate every 28 hours. That means that after 1 month with just one stem cell, that one stem cell will be over 1 billion with a B. And here you are, you're going to start off between 16 to 20 million. And it will replicate for up to 6 to 8 months. In laboratory experiments, it's been known to replicate up to 6 months, but introduced into the human body, it's going to be up to 6 to 8 months that they replicate. And once they get into your body, the body will tell it what to do. It'll first seek your vital organs. It'll go to your heart, it'll go to your lungs, your kidneys, your liver. It'll see if there's any issues there. And then once your body identifies other parts that needs to have healing, then the stem cells will actually start to work to the extremities. I had the therapy about 6 weeks ago, and overnight I felt the changes in my body, and that's something we can talk about a little bit later.
Okay. Now, for those who may have a question, because this is my question, I'm probably asking the same question for a lot of people. One, where do the stem cells come from? Is it a stem cell from my stem cells that y'all regenerate, or is it coming from somebody else? My second part of the question is, for those who say, okay, I do, as you know, we was athletes. It was always for 24 hours ice, after that heat, then after that ice and heat, and then hopefully you'll be back. So with the stem cells, as you already said, in 7 to 8 weeks and all of that, is that recovery faster than the old method of the ice and the heat?
It just depends on now stem cells work differently for everybody. I'm not saying it's going to work better than the ice and heat. It just depends on the severity of your injury. So everybody has a different body type. Everybody has different functions in their body. When you get to a certain point in your life, your body is going to react differently, and that's the same thing that stem cells will do when it's introduced into your body. Now, eventually, it will help everybody the same. It will help everybody the same. It doesn't matter who you are. The stem cells will work with everybody. That's the great benefit of stem cells based on the way that we extract it. But it's going to be up to the individual person, the individual body, that tells the stem cell what it does, the timeline that it's going to give for that particular part of the body to heal. And it's all going to be depending, on the severity, other issues that might be going on inside that person's body, because people don't know this. You might be receiving stem cell for a specific reason, but there might be ailments in your body that you don't even know about. hasn't even picked up, something that X-rays or MRIs or CT scans haven't even picked up. But guess what? Your body is going to tell stem cells where to go, what needs to be treated first. And then so when you say, does it help, faster than ice and heat? I can't say for sure if it does, because it's going to be up to the individual at their status at that particular moment on what the recovery rate's going to be and the timeline, given the body's signals to tell the stem cells on exactly what to do. But eventually, what it does, it's going to speed up the recovery, no matter what type of injury, no matter what type of ailment you have, it will definitely speed it up.
Okay, now, as far as the stem cells, where are they coming from? Is they my own stem cells that y'all regenerating, or we getting them from somewhere else?
Great question. Great question. Over the years, there have been several factors on where the stem cells have been, harvested. Originally, when it first started, probably 50 years ago, they were extracting stem cells from embryonic and fetal tissues, and unfortunately, this was done through abortions, which is highly illegal in the United States right now. So they no longer extract from embryonic fetal tissues that come from aborted babies. And the reason behind that is because when you extract the stem cells from an abortion, it changes the entire DNA makeup of the stem cells. And one thing you don't know about is the total amount of stem cells, the robustness of the stem cells, the accuracy of the stem cells. And people often say, well, hey, I'm afraid if I receive stem cells, it's going to have an adverse effect on my body. And then some people that did receive stem cells say, it did have an adverse effect on my body. Well, guess where those stem cells came from? They came from aborted babies. So, but it's been highly illegal in the United States for years, as far as I know. It's something that we stay away from. We don't even touch that. And we of course, we don't condone it either. Another part is from the amniotic fluid, which is from your amniotic sac, and also from, and I'm looking at some notes here, and from the placental wall of the uterus. So you can also derive stem cells from there. But the problem with the stem cells from the amniotic sac and the placental wall is that they have a lot of debris in it. So, now the applications for those particular stem cells are great for wound care. Whether you have a chronic wound, like stage 3 diabetes, chronic foot ulcers, those stem cells work fabulous on type of injuries, but we don't use it for the applications that we use. The stem cells that we use are derived directly from the umbilical cord during a live cesarean C-section. Now, this is with the mother's consent, of course. We do a lot of pre-screening. We make sure that she's taking all of her prenatal vitamins. She's doing her checkups, and she's getting her procedure done at a great hospital to make sure that all the care given is up to our standards. And one of the other things that we make sure is, well, guess what? The mother cannot have received the vaccination, the COVID vaccination, because we do not want anything introduced into the body that may affect the effectiveness and the robust of the stem cells that we extract. Once we extract the stem cells, they're sent directly to our lab partners in Dallas. It's a level 5 to a level 100 lab. Everything is tightly secured. They spent thousands and thousands of hours testing. They actually withdraw all the red nucleoid blood cells from the stem cells, making it immune privilege, meaning that anybody can use the stem cells. So you don't have to have any type of blood typing. It's not specific to just the baby and the mother. So when we remove all of the red nucleoid blood cells, it becomes available for everybody, and they don't have to do any type of pre-screening.
All right. And I just want our viewers and listeners to know that Mr. Vo is not a doctor. He's an executive partner, but as you can see, he is well knowledgeable of the things that he's talking about. Now, is it fair to say, and this may be, well, we was always taught no question is a dumb question, but I got to ask, is it fair to say that these stem cells are not coming from like no animals or anything?
Oh, no. Well, like I said, from when everything is carefully monitored, carefully documented. Our stem cells are on a or basically on a database that's registered with the FDA. So everything that comes into the lab, the FDA has a record of it, and and there's no workaround or anything like that. So when we extract stem cells, it's straight from the umbilical cord. Now the umbilical cord, I might want to add, is cinched. It's not cut, because as soon as you cut the umbilical cord, you change the chemistry, the makeup, the DNA of the stem cells themselves. So by just cinching the umbilical cord, we're leaving in a status that the stem cells are at at a normal state. But once you cut that umbilical cord, then the stem cells go into, say, what's called a heightened sense status, which will change the makeup and the structure of the stem cells themselves, which may not give a favorable delivery to the recipient once they receive it. But no, everything is carefully monitored. All of our stem cells are put into an FDA database and carefully monitored.
Okay, now, Mr. Vo, you said cinched. I don't know what the hell cinched is. So
It's like putting a clothespin on the umbilical cord versus cutting it, because once you cut it, you change the chemistry of the body fluids and the response to how they react to that to that particular procedure. So when we cinch it, we basically cinch it between the baby and the placenta sac. So we just cinch it, draw the blood out. But if you cut, then the body knows that something is going on, and it's going to react in a way that doesn't meet our standards.
All right. Now let's get into, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to know, how can our average citizens, as well as our student athletes, as well as our professional athletes, receive this type of therapy?
Very simple, and one of the three things I wanted to address to our audience here is one, tonight we're here to educate you on how this therapy works and the benefits of it. But two, we also want to let you know that the treatment is available to you as well, and then we're going to get ready to talk about that. And then once you do receive the treatment, we want you to be able to spread the knowledge that you learned tonight, and especially if you receive the therapy, we want to make that you share your testimonial and how it's affected you. As far as receiving the therapy, you would basically send an email to admin at WBRx global.com, I believe. I want to make sure I have that right.
And I'm gonna put that in the comments. So it's admin.
Yes, admin at WBRx.com, I believe. I'm gonna check.
I got admin WBRx.com.
Yes. Yeah, admin at WBRx.com.
Okay. So for our listeners and our followers, I just had posted that, so you should be able to see that. So just contact them, and they'll set you up with the procedure and how you can do everything as far as the payment, the date you scheduled to come in and do the treatment. Next question with that is how people can receive the therapy as well as athletes. So WBRx, they do have a location in Houston.
Yes, our corporate office is at the McCarthy building on I-10 and Blaylock, right next to Memorial City Mall. And I'll send you the address to post it on your website as well. And we just actually opened our lab for therapy at it's going to be at 2427 Yale Street in Houston, Texas.
2427, is that YELL?
YALE.
I'm also posting that to Yale Street in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, that's where our lab's going to be. At first, we're going to open it twice a week with fully staffed with all of our doctors and nurse practitioners. And then once the train starts picking up some speed, we're going to offer more days a week, up to 5, maybe 6 days a week. But right now, we're actually doing therapy out of our corporate office. Instead of sending an email to the admin, I can give my email.
Okay.
TVO, that's T, because I'm not sure about the other one. It's T as in Tom, V as in Victor, O at WBRx Biologics.com. And when you send me an email, please mention National Scouting Service, because we give them credit for sending them to us.
I'm putting that in the comments as
yeah, go ahead and inform, and then just put TVO at WBRxBiologics.com, because I have to.
right.
I'm not used to using the other one.
I'm putting that across the stream now.
Please mention National Scouting Service when you send an email.
Okay, so that was some good information. Now let's get into personal results, and I'm pretty sure you have some information on there. What can people expect with personal results? Because like you said, some people, their body going to respond different than others. It may take a week. Like you said, yours was in 24 hours overnight. Do you think, or in your opinion, could that be dealing with the age, or could it be dealing with the body type? And the reason why I'm saying that, I'm pretty sure somebody that's working out or as an athlete, they may recover faster because their body already kind of in shape, so it's going to heal faster. That's why a lot of doctors tell people when they have ACL tears or whatever the case may be, you playing sports, you have big thighs, leg muscles, calves, so that tendon going to be a lot stronger than compared to somebody that's not working out. So what is your opinion on that?
Well, another great question. You know, I've listened to several testimonials of the people that have taken it at the same timeline as I did. And one thing that I learned from listening to them is, hey, we all have the same issues, you know, whether it's a ligament issue, whether it's a muscle issue, whether it's an allergy issue, whether it's a sleeping issue, we all have the same issues. And the great thing about stem cells is they don't differentiate between people. You know, like I said, the body will tell the stem cells what to do. My own personal testimonial, I had it about 6 weeks ago, but let me first start off with the ailments that I was suffering from before I took the stem cells. Growing up, playing baseball with you, I was a pitcher. So, you know, I probably developed tendonitis and a torn rotator cuff as early as high school, you know, something that I should have had surgery back then, but of course I didn't have the money to do it. I played a couple years in college, and of course I had to go home and take care of my mom, and that was the end of my career. And, you know, even in college, I couldn't pitch anymore. I was only playing first base and a DH every once in a while. So my arm was over by the time I was probably a junior in high school. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I noticed that my knees and my hips were having early signs of pre-arthritis. You know, anytime I sit up or sit down, walking up the stairs, I could hear my knees popping and grinding, and I had to become very precarious on how I went up and down the stairs. And then in May of 21, my entire family was involved in a car accident. Lady ran a stop sign. I didn't even see her. By the time I saw her, I hit the brakes, and as soon as I hit the brakes, the airbags deployed. If I didn't hit the brakes, then she would have T-boned us. If I didn't hit the brakes, I would have hit her straight into the passenger, into the driver's side. Because I hit the brakes, I hit her right behind the driver's side door. If I didn't hit the brakes, she probably wouldn't be on this earth right now. Out of that wreck, I sustained a fractured vertebrae on my L5 and 3 herniated discs. After about 12 weeks of therapy, the doctor said, well, there's nothing else that we can do except surgery, which I opted out. So even after that, I would have reoccurring pain every once in a while that would last for 3 days in a row, anywhere between a level 3 to a level 8. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't play with my kids. I couldn't chase them around the house. It was terrible. And then I also suffered from chronic fatigue, probably for about 10 years. I say that I started getting chronic fatigue after I got married. Don't make sure. But, after I received stem cell therapy, the very first night, and I forgot to mention that I have a deviated septum, and I always sleep on my side. The very first night, when I sleep on my side, one side of my nasal cavity will be clogged up. I'll roll over, and the other side will be clogged up. The very first night that I received the stem cell therapy, I was able to sleep with both nasal cavities open. Both of them were open, and I always sleep on my right side, which gave my tendonitis and shoulders terrible pain. I would wake up 3 or 4 times a night, just throbbing and tingling with pain in my arm. In the weeks that followed, that pain has gone away. I can sleep now on my right side without any pain. Now it does make my shoulder fall asleep just because of the lack of blood flow, but there's no pain. The pain in my lower back has all been, has been unnoticeable. I walk up the stairs now without any popping or grinding in my knees, and the noise is slowly fading away. Eventually, it will probably go away altogether. And I have more energy now than I've ever had. I can't remember, the last time I didn't take a nap in the middle of the day. I no longer do that, and I slept better. This last week I was telling Barry, our CEO, I slept. I cannot remember the last time I slept this well. Every time I wake up, it's from a deep dream. And when you're dreaming, REM state of sleep, which is your deepest state of sleep. So I have more energy during the day. When I wake up, I feel refreshed. I don't have to drink a triple espresso to get going. It's just amazing. It's amazing. I'm able to, I don't normally talk like this, but I have so much energy now that it's unbelievable. And that's how it's affected me. And when I listen to testimonials from other people that receive the therapy, they're the same way. So it basically does the same thing for everybody, but it's going to be your own body's timeline that differentiates how long it takes to cure or heal or take a particular injury, a disease, or other issues that your body's having. It's going to be up to the individual itself.
Okay, and that's interesting that you said that, because when you was talking about the sinus, and a great friend of ours, Mr. Larry Murphy, he used to always tell me, you never know what a man going through unless you talk to him, because you can be going through the same thing. And before we got on the show, myself and Mr. Vo, we was talking, because I used to, well, I still do, the sinus issues. And people probably thought I was crazy because I have stuff like tissue in my nose so I can get the draining out. And then when this nose gets stopped up, I have to petition that nose for this, because this I can breathe out of that one. I was thinking about getting what is called sinuplasty and all of that to see if I needed to open up my passageway. But to hear this, I think that's probably something that probably really would benefit me. And then it'll happen. I don't have no cold. I don't be having no runny nose. It's just the nose stopped up.
No, I've never, I have never, I've never had this much clarity with my nasal in forever. I grew up, I always had sinus issues. I was taking nasal pumps like it was candy. Period of time when you take so much nasal pump, your body becomes immune to it, so it doesn't become effective anymore. So I got off of that. I started taking pills for my allergies, but when you take pills, it tends to dry your throat up, because it's cutting off all these receptors in your nasal cavity to dry it up. So not only does your nasal passage dries up, but then your throat dries up. So I would wake up, all through the night with a bottle of water on my nightstand and drinking it, which would make me wake up again because I would have to go to the bathroom 3 or 4 times a night. But now, I might go to the bathroom one time and I sleep like a baby. I basically sleep like a baby. And sleep deprivation is a multi-billion-dollar industry itself, because when you have lack of sleep, it affects the entire next day that you're going through. So if you don't get a good night's sleep, you're not going to be very productive the next day. And if it's several nights in a row, then your production is going to take a drastic downfall on what you're able. And I'm sorry, I corrected my email address on there. I hope everybody can see it.
Okay. Yeah, I see it on there. Let me copy that so I can repost it as well. And before I get into my next question, but that email is tvo at WBRx Biologics.com.
That's it.
Now, as we almost coming to an end, one thing about receiving the treatment, now it's another thing about how people can get involved. I saw on you all's website, and I think you was in the picture, that we had a former NBA champion, Mr. Kendrick Perkins.
Yes, I met him at a BizPack function. I believe it was back in September. We were actually there, and this was right before we did our pre-launch on stem cell therapy. Our company originally opened in 2018 on a pre-launch, and then we did our initial launch in September of 2019, and then of course COVID shut everything down in March 20. But initially, WBRx Biologics was WBRx Global, and we started off as a medical grade CBD company, and we still have that. We still offer that. So one of the products that I took in that company was a relief balm for my lower back, which did wonders. So yes, so that's where I met Kendrick. I'm actually, in contact with him and to this day, and with his business partner. He's highly interested in this. We're just working out some details on how it could be, compensatable for both sides of the party. Because Kendrick, he's a businessman, so I am totally on board with everything that he's trying to do. He's such a nice guy. He's such a funny guy. If you ever watch him on ESPN, he reminds me of Shaq. He's one of the funniest guys to watch on ESPN. I just love that guy, and I hope to I hope for us to do some business with him in the near future. And then on the same note, I actually got a chance to speak with Matt Maloney last Friday when we had an event on stem cells. He was a former Rockets player that was playing there when Barkley was playing there. So he got introduced to the company. I had a good talk with him, shared with him personally my own testimonial, sat with him during the entire event, and I think he got a lot out of it as well. So a lot of pro athletes are this and the layout of where this is going. And right now, the stem cell is, even though it's been around only for a few decades, it's not widely renowned. We talk about Kobe; he was getting 5 years of his career. But as far as how people have thought about stem cells, and they might have some objections about it, this is really gaining momentum. But right now, it's worldwide. It's a $10 billion, and the U.S. market is captivating about $2 billion, and we're just still on the ground floor. Imagine where this is going to be in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. It's going to easily be over $100 billion in the United States alone. I would predict in the next 10 years. And there are definitely ways for you to get involved with our company. You can become an affiliate partner. By becoming an affiliate partner, it's a one-time fee of $99, and just send me an email, and I'll shoot you all the information. But please remember to make sure you mention National Scouting Service, and that way we can make sure to take care of Mr. Brown here as well. But by becoming an affiliate partner for $99 is a one-time fee. It'll set up your back office for downline commission support report. Now, we spent over $380,000 on this software. So anybody that comes through us to us because you became an affiliate partner and they mention your name, you'll be compensated for it as well.
Okay. Now, we coming kind of to the close, and me and you kind of talked about this, because even though we have student athletes out there and we have regular citizens out there that also suffer from chronic disease, pains, or whatever the case may be. And now with the college and the high school athletes, NIL deals are big things. We kind of talked about this, if this could be something that can be marketable for an athlete coming through you all's company, whether they marketing for it or giving their testimonials or the things that they're going through. How do you feel about NIL deals for high school athletes as well as collegiate athletes? And then do you think this could be something later down the line that MBRX may be like, hey, let's get on board and let's start sponsoring some of these athletes that's coming through us for service as well?
Oh, absolutely. The whole idea behind our business plan is to make sure that we help as many people as and it's a very lucrative market. Like I said, it's globally a $10 billion market. We have no problem in sitting down at the table and making sure that people are compensated for not only introducing other people into the stem cell therapy through us, but also getting the word out. For every person that comes our way, if you happen to be an affiliate partner, you're going to get a very robust commission out of it. And this is for each therapy that is received because you send somebody through us. And you're talking about high school athletes, you're talking about professional athletes. I forgot to mention, we've actually had NBA players that were told by their orthopedic surgeons that their career was over. Your knees are gone. There's no way you're going to be able to be playing in the league again. Well, guess what? After they came to us, they received therapy. They're back in the NBA. We've had high school baseball players that were going to be on the draft pick, and then they sustained an injury to where they were going to be, they're going to be knocked out of that draft pick after receiving therapy through us. They were back in the draft pick. So this not only is the therapy available for everyone, but it is also a lucrative enterprise available for everyone to enter as well. And like I said, we just want to help as many people as we can. We make it very affordable, but we also make it very lucrative, and we give you a robust commission if you send people our way.
All right. Well, with that being said, Mr. Vo has sent us a playlist, and we love to do this for all our guests that comes on the show. And some of the artists he listened to, I don't know if he listened to these guys when he's traveling or working out or whatever the case may be, but they are Stick Figure, New Order, Tupac, Slightly Stupid, and Tim McGraw. We will be playing his playlist on our podcast radio station. You would have to download Station Head app and follow National Scouting, and you can listen to his playlist when we get done with the show. And I'll also be sending that link to you as well, Mr. Vo. It's crazy calling you Mr. Vo because I know you as buddy, but out of respect, this is business. But we will be sending you that playlist as well as the information to this show that you can share with family and friends. Another thing that I like to do before we close out, I'm going to give you the stage where you can give your personal closing remarks of why it is important for you to help and what stem cells mean to you. And at this time, I'm going to get off the screen. I'm going to give you the screen. So here you go.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. I spoke about all my ailments before. Growing up, I played a variety of sports. Had a variety of injuries. Back then, I didn't take care of my arm. I didn't use any ice. Back then we didn't have regenerative therapy. And even after receiving the therapy to where it's downplayed my pains, it's made my chronic fatigue go away. All the ailments that I've suffered over the years, it's improving every single day, including the way that I sleep. I've never slept better in my life. But you know what? All those things don't really matter to me. The biggest reason that I took the stem cells is because next month, both my daughter and I, we're going to have birthdays. Hers is going to be on the 28th, and mine's going to be on the 11th. Coincidentally, her grandfather, he will also have a birthday on the 13th, but we generally celebrate our birthdays together. It's also a cause of celebration for my son, who's 8. He'll be his birthday is not till October because at this time of year when people start having birthdays, he also knows that there's going to be cake involved and ice cream involved. So it's a much celebration for him as it is for us. But this next month, my daughter will turn 4. And she's absolutely the world to me. When we had her through IVF, I thought we were going to get another son, which I thought would be much easier because we wouldn't have to buy new clothes or new toys. But I am so grateful for her. I love her to death. And even though I love my son just as much, you just have a special kind of bond between a father and a daughter, just like my son has a special bond with his mother. But she's going to be turning 4 years old next month. Myself, on the 11th, I would be turning 51. I'm the same age as Mr. Brown here. I'm going to be turning 51. That means when my daughter graduates high school, I'll be 65. By the time she graduates college, I'm going to be almost 70. Unless she takes the 10-year degree plan like I did, I'll be almost 75 before she graduates. I don't care about how my pain has gone away, how my chronic fatigue has gone away. I don't care about any of that. I would trade it away in 1 second to get all that back. The only thing that I want out of receiving the stem cell therapy, in which I am 100% more confident that it's going to happen, is I just want to be able to live long enough to see my daughter get married. That is the only thing that I've ever worried about. But now, after receiving stem cell therapy, I am 100% more confident that I will make her wedding day. And I will trade everything else away for that. And that's why I've received the stem cell therapy.
Wow, man. Hey, that was a good testimony of Mr. Vo. I was about to say buddy, Mr. Vo. Hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I got to give you another round of applause. And I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to be able to interview you. You always been a friend. You always been family, man. And I'm glad I got to have this opportunity. We'll have to have lunch one day, since I know that you in Houston. For some reason, I thought you stayed out of the state for some reason. I don't know why. But I'm glad we had this opportunity to chop it up with one another. And we're about to get ready to close out the show. I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to see the outro, because, you know, you're involved in the outro as well. And hopefully later down the line, we can talk again. Hopefully we'll have a student athlete or a professional player that's going through the therapy that's willing to come on the show, and we can have another show. And I'm glad you gave me an opportunity, because National Scouting Service is now invested into MBRX. So we're happily to be affiliated with you all, happily to be a partner, and anything that we can do on our end, whether it's at a convention to show up, to be able to talk, or maybe podcast live at the convention and get some testimonials from people like that, man, that'd be great. So whatever you need me to do from my end, my brother, just let me know.
Oh, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do a lot of things together. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you allowing me to be on this show, and we're just here to help as many people as we can, and drive both the wealth and health upwards. Definitely.
All right, man. And that's a bit. Well, I'm going to take you off the screen, but I'm not going to take you off the show, because I want you to see the outro. And like I say, I'll get all the information to you when we're done. It's been a great pleasure, man. I appreciate you again allowing me to interview you, Mr. Vo. Tell your family I said hello, man. Y'all take care and continue doing what you're doing. Continue to help people, and continue to help people get, you know, monetary wealth as well as that. But I'm going to take you off the screen, give out my little outro going into the show, and I'll get that information to you, my brother.
I appreciate you, man. Love you, man.
Man, love you too, man. Well, that was Mr. Thien Vo, who was on our show, and he is with WBRx Biologics. Glad to have him on the show. A lot of information that we got from him about the show, and I know a lot of people are going to be able to take that information with them. But as always, I am Coach O. This is the National Scouting Service podcast show, but I got to go.
Play hard, work hard, play hard. If I can't do it, homie, it can't be done. Now I'ma let the champagne bottle pop. I'ma take it to the top. Show, I'ma make it hot, baby. Another one, another one.